The morning air was crisp, the kind that hinted at the approaching winter. Eleanor Kensington stepped out of her car a block away from Kensington Luxe, the high-end boutique that bore her family's name. She had chosen her attire carefully: faded jeans, a simple sweater, and sneakers that had seen better days. Her golden hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, no makeup, no jewelry. For the first time in her life, Eleanor wanted to see her empire through the eyes of an outsider. The boutique was one of the most exclusive in the city, a place where luxury wasn't just sold, it was worshipped. Customers came dressed in designer brands, their wealth oozing from every stitch. But Eleanor wondered, was it truly the quality of their service that made Kensington Luxe prestigious, or was it just the money walking through the door? She pushed the glass doors open, the familiar scent of expensive perfume and polished leather washing over her. Inside, chandeliers cast warm light over sleek marble floors. Rows of couture dresses lined the walls like works of art, each with a price tag high enough to make most people dizzy. The moment she stepped inside, she felt it, the shift. A pair of sales associates, dressed immaculately in black, stood behind the counter. One of them, a tall woman with sharp cheekbones and a name tag that read Celeste, barely glanced at her. The other, a younger blonde named Madeline, turned up her nose in silent judgment. For a moment, Eleanor lingered near a display, running her fingers over the delicate silk of a handcrafted gown. Then, the sharp voice cut through the air. "Excuse me." Celeste's lips curled into something that might have been a smile if not for the condescension dripping from it. "Are you lost?" Eleanor looked up, surprised by how quickly they had dismissed her. "No," she said simply, "I wanted to browse." Celeste exchanged a glance with Madeline, their smirks barely hidden. "These are designer pieces," Madeline added, her voice sugary sweet but laced with venom. "Very exclusive. We don't usually carry casual wear." Her eyes flicked over Eleanor's outfit, brimming with disdain. Eleanor's fingers tightened around the silk fabric, but she willed herself to stay calm. "Would you mind showing me something from the winter collection?" she asked politely. Celeste sighed dramatically and gestured toward a small rack near the back of the store. "Perhaps something more affordable would suit you," she said. Eleanor felt something burn inside her, not anger, not yet. But disappointment. She let the insult slide, walking toward the rack they had pointed her to. The dresses here were beautiful but noticeably simpler. Less intricate designs, fewer embellishments. She recognized them immediately, pieces they usually reserved for discount buyers or last-season clearances. She picked up a navy blue dress and held it up. "Do you think this would suit me?" Celeste barely suppressed a laugh. "Well, it's functional." "I like it," Eleanor said. "I'll take it." Madeline raised a skeptical eyebrow. "It's $8,500, she said, emphasizing each number slowly, as if speaking to a child. "We don't do layaway." Eleanor tilted her head, suppressing a smirk. "Good to know," she said, pulling out her phone. "In that case, I think I'd like to buy the whole store." The silence that followed was deafening. Celeste remained seated, letting the weight of silence hang in the air. The boutique, once a place of effortless luxury, now felt suffocating. The two saleswomen, Harper and Vanessa, exchanged uneasy glances, their faces a mixture of irritation and impatience. The manager, an older woman named Evelyn, adjusted her pearl necklace and sighed dramatically. "Miss, I'm afraid I must insist. If you have no intention of making a purchase, we cannot let you loiter in the lounge," Evelyn said, her voice dripping with forced politeness. "Our clientele expects a certain standard." Celeste's fingers traced the rim of her champagne flute, her amusement barely contained. She could see the tension in their posture, the way their carefully constructed expressions faltered under the weight of their assumptions. "A certain standard," she mused, tilting her head. "And I don't mean it." Harper, the younger saleswoman, crossed her arms. "You came in here in sneakers and a coat that's seen better days," she muttered. "This isn't a thrift store." Celeste chuckled under her breath. "Ah, the arrogance of the ignorant." She leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. "Let me ask you something, Harper," she said, her voice soft yet commanding. "How long have you worked here?" Harper hesitated. "A year and a half." "And in all that time, have you ever questioned who actually owns this store?" Vanessa scoffed. "Please. Everyone knows the owner is some mysterious heiress, some woman we've never seen. But trust me, whoever she is, she wouldn't be caught dead in." She gestured at Celeste's outfit with a smirk. Celeste exhaled slowly, as if savoring the moment. Then, with deliberate ease, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small, sleek leather card holder. She placed a single black card onto the table between them. The boutique's embossed logo shimmered under the warm lighting. The room seemed to freeze. Evelyn's eyes locked onto the card, her breath hitching. Harper and Vanessa leaned forward, squinting, until realization struck. It wasn't just any black card. It was the executive ownership card. The only person who possessed it was Celeste Laurent herself. Silence fell like a thunderclap. Harper's face drained of color. Vanessa took an instinctive step back. Evelyn, usually composed, opened her mouth but no words came out. Celeste tapped the card lightly. Surprise. The shift was instant. Evelyn let out a nervous laugh, stepping closer as if she could erase the last 15 minutes of condescension. "Miss Laurent, we didn't recognize you. If we had known." "But you didn't." Celeste's voice was dangerously smooth. "And that's the problem, isn't it?" Vanessa stammered. "It was just a misunderstanding." "No." Celeste stood up, her presence suddenly suffocating in its power. "It was a test. And you failed." She let her words sink in, watching them squirm. These were the people she had trusted to represent her brand? To uphold the values she had built this empire on? Disgust curled in her stomach. "You assume that wealth has a uniform," Celeste continued. "That money only comes dressed in designer labels and tailored coats. But real wealth doesn't beg for your approval." Evelyn wrung her hands. "Please, Miss Laurent, we can make this right." "Oh, you will," Celeste cut in, taking a sip of her champagne. "But not in the way you think." With that, she turned on her heel and strolled toward the exit, leaving the air heavy with dread. And just before she reached the door, she tossed over her shoulder, "You'll be hearing from corporate." The boutique had never felt colder. The morning after the debacle in the boutique, Celeste Laurent sat at her desk in her penthouse apartment, overlooking the city skyline. The golden morning light reflected off the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the polished marble floors. She swirled her espresso absent-mindedly, the bitterness grounding her. On her desk lay a thick folder, inside, the employment records of every single staff member in her flagship boutique. The very same people who had treated her like she didn't belong. She flipped through the pages, stopping at the profiles of Evelyn, Harper, and Vanessa. Their tenure, their performance reports, their previous complaints. Celeste already knew what she was going to do. Her assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Isabel, entered the office. "The corporate team is ready for your call, Miss Laurent." Celeste nodded, setting down her espresso. "Put them through." The screen on the wall flickered to life, displaying a grid of executives, all dressed in sleek, professional attire. The CEO of the luxury group that owned the brand, a stern-looking man named Richard Beaumont, sat at the head of the call. "Celeste," he greeted, his tone measured. "I heard there was an incident." She crossed her legs, tilting her head slightly. "That's one way to put it. I walked into my own store yesterday and was treated like a common thief." The executives shifted uncomfortably. They knew Celeste wasn't one for theatrics. If she was speaking, it was because something was about to change. "The staff there humiliated me," she continued. "Not because they were overworked. Not because they were having a bad day. But because they took one look at my clothes and decided I wasn't worth their respect." Richard sighed. "That is unacceptable. We will take immediate action." Celeste leaned forward, her voice cutting through the call. I already have. She slid the folder toward the camera. Effective immediately, Evelyn is fired. Her leadership has fostered a culture of discrimination, and I won't have that poisoning my brand. No one objected. They wouldn't dare. Harper and Vanessa, she continued. They'll be demoted to stockroom duties. Let's see if their arrogance survives a few months of unpacking shipments in a windowless room. One of the executives cleared their throat. Celeste, you're sending a strong message. Good, she said, cold and unwavering. Because here's the thing, gentlemen. I didn't build this empire just to have it rot from the inside. My brand is built on power, confidence, and knowing your worth. If my own employees can't embody that, they have no place here. Richard gave a slow nod, impressed. Consider it done. Celeste smiled, but there was no warmth in it. One more thing. She gestured to Isabel, who pulled up a press release draft on the screen. This goes out today. I want the world to know that this brand, my brand, does not tolerate bias, elitism, or small-minded gatekeeping. The industry needs a reminder of what true luxury looks like. Richard hesitated but then gave a small smirk. You never do things quietly, do you, Celeste? She took a slow sip of her espresso. Why would I? Later that evening, social media was ablaze with headlines. Celeste Laurent exposes luxury industry snobbery. Boutique staff fired after humiliating brand owner. When the billionaire walks in disguised, a power move for the ages. At the boutique, Evelyn's desk sat empty. Harper and Vanessa, now in plain black stockroom uniforms, unpacked boxes in silence, their hands shaking. The whispers of their coworkers followed them like shadows. And as Celeste walked into another one of her stores, this time, dressed however she pleased, every staff member stood a little straighter, greeted her a little warmer. They finally understood. Power wasn't in the price tag. Power was in who held the pen to rewrite the rules. And Celeste Laurent? She was the one writing the future.